Hello and welcome to ThePrint. Today we have Mr. Ram Madhav. He is the member of National Executive Committee of RSS and he has always been very vocal on contemporary issues. So, sir, welcome to ThePrint.
Thank you.
Sir, jumping straight to the issue, and that is Gyanvapi. So, a few days back, while addressing a program in Vadodara, the Muslims bearing the burden of temples being razed 500 years back or 600 years back. So now yesterday, Sarsang Chalak ji, Mohan Bhagwat ji, while addressing Shiksha Barg, he also brought similar sort of issues. Like he said, it was sounding almost like an echo of your statement. So he also said that और कितना झगड़ा करना है, क्यों झगड़ा करना है, हर जगह शिवलिंग ढूंढने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. So sir, if you can elaborate on that, what Sangh is actually thinking.
We all know that Islam came to India through invaders, and iconoclasm, meaning destruction of idols, destruction of sacred places of other religions, had been an integral part of medieval Islam. They did it not only in India, they did similar things in Europe with the Christians, with the Jews, and some of those conflicts are still ongoing even to this day. Same thing had happened in India. The medieval invaders who came here had destroyed a large number of religious places, temples and other places in our country. Now, the Muslims of today, probably their forefathers were not even Muslims at that time. Mm-hmm. Probably their forefathers got converted to Islam either around that time or subsequently. But unfortunately, that part of the Islamic history of iconoclasm continues to remain as an albatross around the neck of Indian Muslims even to this day. The Indian Muslims should understand that they need not continue to carry that albatross around their neck. Now, Islam went to other countries like Indonesia. There, in the last 20 years, the Indonesian government, which a country with 96-97% Muslim population, it has rebuilt a temple complex. Over 20 years, it took 20 years to rebuild that temple complex. The temples that were built sometime in 600 or 6th century, 7th century got demolished for natural reasons. The temple complex was rebuilt by Muslim government in Indonesia. Here is a Muslim government which is rebuilding temples, and in our country, we are debating as to whether the Muslims of this country are responsible, are accountable, will they take the burden for the destruction of those temples in the medieval period. So what we all feel is that first of all, the Indian Muslims should come forward and accept this iconoclasm history of the medieval Islam. Once that happens, and once they agree that okay, whatever happened at that time was wrong, then half of the problem is solved. I give you a parallel. We have a large number of Christians in India who subscribe to Christianity that came with the British, called the Anglican Church, Church of South India, Church of North India. There are a large number of Christians here. Do they align themselves to the British today? Do they say that you should not change British names? Do they insist that, whatever British legacy was there, we should own it up? No, they don't say. They say that, okay, they continue to follow that religion which was brought in by the British, or through, when they came, along with them came the Anglican Christians. That religion continues to be here. But nobody supports the acts of the British. Why not the same thing apply to the Muslims of this country? Why not they stand up and say, yes, that iconoclasm history was a true history. We do not subscribe to that history. We do not support that history. Then there can be a better understanding. We can come together. Once that happens, maybe what Honorable Sri Bhagwat ji said yesterday, that Hindus also then will not start talking about every destruction. But you expect Hindus to remain silent. They should not have any sentiments. and you continue to, relate yourself to that iconoclastic classic history of medieval Islam, that way harmony is very difficult to achieve. In fact, from that point of view, I would say Gyanvapi is offering a very good opportunity to all of us. Ram Janmabhoomi, we could not come together, even Bhagavad Ji mentioned about it. We could not come together and find a negotiated settlement. We left it to the courts. Should we leave Gyanvapi also to the courts? Or should we take this as an opportunity, come together and agree that, okay, that part of history, which was very painful to Hindus here, which was very painful to Jews in Israel, which was very painful to somebody else in some other part of the world, can we agree that that painful history should be put behind, and as community we should work together? That is an opportunity before us today.
So, sir, in a nutshell, so should I take it in a way that the Sangh Paribar, I mean, according to the Sangh Paribar or according to you, the Indian Muslims now should start accepting the history, the history of Islamic invasion, and allowing their existing structures like the mosques or idgahs, to be raised and Hindu temples to be built on that place, or just accepting it and let it be?
No, first of all, there are certain very strong sentiments attached to certain places like Gyanvapi, Kashi Vishwanath Mandir, or for that matter Sri Krishna Mandir in Mathura, some of these places. In fact, earlier also the whole debate was around these three temples, Ayodhya, Kashi and Mathura. We could have come together in early 90s. There was an opportunity and discussed the whole gamut of issues and resolved them. We did not do that at that time. There was an opportunity. We missed that opportunity. Now, I blame the Muslim side. Muslim side may blame us. I don't get into that.
Babri Masjid was demolished.
The result was that unfortunate incident. In any case, we went to the court and finally, court took its sweet time. A case that began in 1948 found a resolution in 2019, 70 years or 60 years. So, now when this other issue came up, Gyanvapi issue came up, again, of course, it's a matter before the courts. Bhagavad Ji was very clear. Neither RSS nor any organization per se is behind this whole demand and all that. It was a demand from the people and it went to the court. Let legal process take its own course. But judiciary may take its sweet time again. It may take decades to find any resolution to this issue. Pending that, can we now come together? For coming together, first of all, I am saying, once the Muslim side agrees that yes, this has happened in this country, it's probably not the right thing to happen. Once that kind of agreement, that kind of understanding comes from the Muslim side, then many issues will get resolved automatically. Now, the problem is, right now as we are talking, a huge issue is raising in Temple Mount issue in Israel. Al-Aqsa Mosque, Temple Mount. On Temple Mount, Jews want to go, they are allowed to go. Jews want to worship because it was their ancestral temple, which was demolished and a mosque was constructed later. Now, the Muslim side says no, because Prophet Muhammad had ascended to heaven using that winged horse from this place. This is sacred for us, so we cannot allow Jews to come and worship here. Now, if Muslims think that that place has so much sentiment attached to it, so they cannot allow any other religion to come in, what about the sentiment of Hindus in the case of Kashi Vishwanath? What about the sentiment of Hindus in Mathura? So, we need to appreciate the sentiment of each other. Once that preparation is there, when what Mr. Bhagwat said subsequently, then maybe Hindus won't start taking up all other issues. They won't start digging every mosque to look for a Shivling. But the essence of what Sri Bhagavad Ji was saying was also that the Muslims of this country should understand that they are not the aggressors. They're part and parcel of this great society for centuries. Their forefathers had changed the religion, so they need not get completely removed from the history of this country. Accept the history. So then the point that you are raising, whether every temple, every masjid needs to be demolished, every structure needs to be demolished, maybe we don't have to debate all that once this goodwill happens. But you don't agree that, that iconoclastic history was a reality. It had caused a lot of pain to Hindus. Then you expect Hindus to keep quiet. Okay, RSS has decided that right now it is not getting into another movement. But India, in Hindu society, there may be Hindus who feel that they should voice their sentiments. That will continue to happen.
But why now? Is it because the Hindus see or feel that they have a favorable government, or they are feeling a little emboldened now because they have not exactly RSS but the entire Sangh Parivar. Sangh Parivar has several other organizations, so they will get if not direct but indirect support. So that is what I'm trying to ask, sir. Why now? I mean,
no. See, look, there is general awakening in the larger Hindu society. This general pride in their cultural, civilizational identity. That's the reason why today you will find a Rahul Gandhi claiming that he is also a good Hindu.
Yeah.
Or a Mamata Banerjee going about narrating, telling about her Gotra and all that. There is a general awakening in the society about its civilizational cultural identity. Hindu is not necessarily per se any religious identity. It is a civilizational identity, cultural identity. There is greater awakening. That's the reason why a large number of Hindus are standing up and raising these issues. But I can say the larger issue is this question as to what the Indian Muslims think about the history of aggressors. Do they continue to believe that they are those aggressors are their ancestors, or they believe that no, that was a sad history. They came, they ruled over us. While ruling over us, they did lots of things which are not unacceptable. They were not unacceptable at that time, but they are even more unacceptable today. Once they show that kind of attitude, then Hindus will automatically, I am sure they will automatically think differently about many other places. It's not just about vengeance. It's about that bigger question as who are all of us after all? Are we all one society or not? Some of us will relate ourselves to the Britishers. Some of us will relate to Mughals. Is that how we should live here? Or we should live as one people, one society? Then respect each other's sentiments. Once that agreement is achieved, that is only possible through mutual dialogue, not through judiciary, nor through any government action. That's why Bhagavad Ji was also very emphatic that can we sit together and discuss? But the very precondition for it is we all should agree that we belong to same ancestors. The Muslims of this country cannot claim their ancestry to the invaders. They can pursue their religion, but we all have to be having that feeling for this country, which Savarkar had called as Pitrubhumi Punyabhumi. Pitrubhumi means land of ancestors, not fatherland. Fatherland was a very European concept or a Russian concept. Pitrubhumi is ancestral land, land of ancestors, and a sacred land. Once we agree on that, maybe no other issue will come up. Maybe Kashi Vishwanath and Mathura will be the issues. Maybe Hindus will say, oh, right, now that we are agreeing that we are all a part and parcel of this whole society, we can think differently.
But then for that, sir, Muslims probably, I mean, the way senior RSS functionaries, including Bhagavad Ji, has been talking about, like, for a long time now, that everybody, all Muslims, all Christians, anybody who is living in India have been a Hindu. Their ancestors were Hindu, and then they converted to some other religion. Their way of worship might have changed, but they're connected to this Matrubhumi, this land, and that way they are Hindu. So he, every time he speaks, he always stresses on the fact that it is not about the religion but about the culture. But then for that, like you are also saying, for that they have to accept in whatever way Muslims also have to accept that they were Hindus at some point of time. So how will they do it?
When we say Hindus, it's not in the sense of any religion. When they say that we belong to this culture, they need not have to give up their religious identity. They can continue to pursue that. Like, Islam has 5 pillars. One is, of course, loyalty to that religion, pillar 1. Number 2, namaz 5 times a day. Number 3, zakat, that is, you have to donate or you have to work for the welfare of the people. Number 4, you fast for month long during Ramadan. Number 5, undertake pilgrimage to Makkah, Medina, the Hajj pilgrimage. These are 5 pillars of Islam. Follow that. Nobody will stop you in this country, because many of those things, similar things, people of other religions, Hindus will fast, Hindus undertake Tirth Yatras. So those things are pillars they can follow. But there are 3 things that come in the way of the larger issue of living the inclusive life with this national society. Number 1, the concept of Ummah. We are a separate nation because we are Muslims. That they have to give up. The second is this whole concept of Kafir. Those who are not Muslims are sinners, Kafirs. Maybe it's there in the scriptures, but in day-to-day parlance, Kafir, there is no Kafir, they should agree. Number 3, this whole concept of Jihad, they should give up. If it is Jihad, it should be internal. In fact, many Muslim scholars say this, Jihad should be internal. It's not that you are going and killing people of other religions. Now, these things which create problem between communities. So when Bhagavad Ji is saying or somebody else is saying that our ancestors are the same, nobody is saying that you should not pray to God in whatever way you want to pray to God. That freedom is always there in this country. Those so-called Hindus do not pray to God through any one form, in any one way. They have multiple ways. India is full of so many religions. Every other day a new religion comes up here. And in this country, even if you do not pray to God also, you can still be a Hindu. Because this culture, this whole civilizational ethos is so very, very Catholic in its nature. So it's not about them changing their way of worship. If they prefer to do that, well and good. But otherwise, they can continue to pursue their way of worship. But at cultural level, can we accept that we are all one? That we call as Hindu. For a moment, they don't want to call it as Hindu. They want to call it Bharatiya Sanskriti. Fair enough, do that. Call it as Bharatiya Sanskriti, we don't mind. But that means that you should sever your links with the aggressors. You should give up on that whole concept of Ummah. We are different from national society. We are a nation by ourselves as a religion. Then somebody is Kafir, you should give up that idea. Then, we can live together. That is the whole essence of that argument of cultural, ancestral oneness.
But sir, why pulling up one particular community for bringing some sort of criminal activities into the country, or bringing terrorism for that matter? We have seen over the period of time, we have seen there is this general idea that terrorists are generally Muslims, but it's not true. There are Hindus who also have done similar crimes. There may be Christians who, it's not about the religion, it's about the crime. And so why we always accept a particular community to do so many things? Because Bhagavad Ji also yesterday he was mentioning that the present Hindus or the present Muslims, none of them, they were there when all this kind of invasion and then the consequent demolition kind of thing were happening. So why this generation of Muslims or this generation of Hindu, should pay the price of what their forefathers have done maybe 500, 600 years back?
No, precisely. They should not pay the price for what in fact, I don't agree that they are their forefathers. What the aggressors had done. Just because they belong to same religion, they need not be held accountable for what happened 400, 500 years ago. For me, that is fine. I agree. But do the Muslims agree with that proposition? That is the question. Now, I do agree that there can be terrorists from any religion, but here in this particular case, these terrorists use Islam as justification. That is why it is called Islamic terror. They cite verses from Quran to justify the terror. Now, they are wrong. No doubt, those terrorists are wrong. But it's not enough for me to say that. The Muslim society should stand up and say that no, what you are saying as justification for your terror is not correct interpretation of religion. My religion doesn't support. It's not enough to say Islam is religion of peace. When that principle is broken by somebody in the name of Islam, you should stand up and condemn it. It was done by Aurangzeb. Why do you want to own up the act of Aurangzeb and say that no, Aurangzeb was not an iconoclast? While Aurangzeb's court chroniclers have recorded that Aurangzeb had issued a farman to destroy Kashi Vishwanath temple. Still you don't believe, you say that Hindus are provoking us. So the question is, yes, we do believe that you cannot hold the Muslim of today or Hindu of today or Christian of today for certain wrongs that had happened in the past. Fair enough. But what are you saying about those past? Today, Hindu is held responsible for all sorts of things that had happened in the past. Like, atrocities against certain communities, scheduled caste communities and all. Hindus own it up, yes. Some mistakes have happened in the past. That's why we are ready to remedy those mistakes. We don't glorify them, we don't accept them. But do Muslims say that about the medieval iconoclasm? So that is the only question we are repeatedly raising. That's why we are saying we are all one. Muslims of India have not come from outside, unlike Muslims in many European countries who had migrated from some Arab countries, some African countries. Indian Muslims are born here, born to Indian people, change religion at some point. Fair enough. You can continue to pursue any religion in this country. That freedom this culture gives. But don't you think that it is necessary that just as Hindus have accepted the mistakes that have happened in the course of their own history, there was sati, did we not reject it now? There was that untouchability, did we not reject it? So many such things. We said they were wrong in our history. We never wrote them up. Why not the Muslims say that iconoclasm was wrong? We don't own it up.
And we do not use the word Kafir ever. We
don't consider anybody a Kafir. Now, I mentioned to you about Indonesian Muslims. Indonesia's largest Islamic organization called Nahdlatul Ulama has issued a proclamation last year, 2021, that there is no Kafir. Why not take that as an example? So this is what we have to see. The present debate may become an opportunity for us to discuss about some of these things.
So, sir, do you see any role of politics in this, and do you really think that there is a section of politicians who are playing to the gallery and fanning this disharmony because this kind of disharmony suits them, their politics?
Oh, see, all divisions happen because of politics.
Yeah.
Because politics essentially divides. But we have enough mature leaders among the Muslim, in the Muslim community, in the Hindu community. We have learned people. We have scholars, we have religious leaders. We can definitely, keep politics aside and come together.
Sir, since you are talking about politics and how politics actually divides people, so you had been a general secretary of BJP and for quite a long time. Now you are again back to this parent organizations, RSS, the Sangh. So it's been a long time now, but did you really need to unlearn something? How was this shift? Is this a very smooth transition? Are you happier there? I know this is somewhat a little tricky question, but I know you are very open when you talk. You speak your mind all the time.
Oh, this interview should not be about me. But since you asked, I will say, no, such transitions won't be easy. It's difficult because when we work in a particular responsibility, we put our heart and soul into it. When suddenly you have to leave it and go to something else, that transition won't be easy. I can say that. Having said it, since I am from the RSS, I have been essentially loaned to the BJP, and at some point BJP thought, or RSS thought it fit for me to come back. I will go back. I don't have anything other than that. But transitions will be difficult. I mean, when I went from RSS to BJP, it took some time for me to understand the way BJP, the political party functions, and I got used to it. I worked for 6 years. Yeah.
What did you need to unlearn when you came back to RSS?
No, it's not about learning or unlearning. I mean, whatever we have in us, we invest it in the organization in which we are working. But when you move out of a particular work and move to another work, the transition becomes a little difficult, because you have put your heart and soul into one work. Now you have to give it up and go to some other work. That transition is difficult. There is nothing much to learn or unlearn in either case.
So, sir, since we started talking about your contribution to BJP, so then one particular area has to come, that is Jammu and Kashmir. So you worked really, really hard in Jammu and Kashmir, and you are also credited as the person, as the political mind, as the brain behind this BJP government in J&K, but the alliance fell apart later. So now, post abrogation, there was an idea, and the people were told that the number of terror related incidents would really go down, and it has gone down. We do not really see any organized terror incidents, but nowadays it has become almost routine. Every other day, every single day, we are seeing that some Hindu, he or she can be a migrant, he or she can be a resident, a local of Jammu and Kashmir, they are being killed. It's kind of targeted killing. So, why is this happening, and how things will work?
The situation in Jammu and Kashmir, especially in the Kashmir Valley, I must admit that it is now spilling over into Jammu also, is definitely a cause for greater attention, which of course Government of India is paying. As I understand, today also there is going to be a high-level meeting. Home Minister, NSA, Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, all of them are again going to sit together to address the present situation. The terrorists have changed their tactics. Unlike in the past, when they used to come and attack the police, attack the army, use grenades, use bombs or other weapons. Now they are resorting to lone wolf attacks, which became a norm some time ago in Europe largely. Secondly, targeted killings. Now these are all very coward acts. You find a very innocent person, in a very insecure situation and go and target him. It doesn't require any big bravado to do that. Braveness to do that. They are cowardly acts, but they are now using that tactic to create a sense of insecurity among the Kashmiri Hindus, especially the Pandit community in the Kashmir Valley. Now Amarnath Yatra is also coming up. So there is definitely a need for greater vigilance and greater, certain different action from the side of the government. I will point out one thing here. What is unfortunately happening is, we had a government until 2018. We decided to walk out of the government for some very important reasons, that we were not able to pursue the agenda for which we had joined that government. We had an objective. It was, to some extent, it was achieved, because today if Yasin Malik was finally prosecuted in one case, he was finally able to brought to book finally. It was because we had our government at that time. We were in power. Otherwise, NIA would not have had the opportunity to actually start the investigation there also. Those officers knew very well that reality. So, but at a particular point, we decided that no, our agenda we are not able to take forward. So, we came out of the government. It was 4 years since then, almost 4 years now. I think, if I remember correct, we came out in August 2018. So, in the last 4 years, one thing is missing in that state. Although government has tried to promote a lot of political activity in the Union Territory in the last 2-3 years, For example, take the case of the present situation. Who are all putting their heads together? They are all, there's no local person. There's nobody from Jammu and Kashmir in that. Home Minister, of course, he is the in charge for Union Territory. He is there, NSA is there, LG is there, others are there. We need to make the local political establishment also the stakeholders in managing the situation in the valley. Sooner than later, we need to bring those sections also into the action. Today they are not there. When people are getting killed, only the administration reaches out. Others are just sitting. They are not, the political leadership is sitting just idle there. We need to bring them back into action. They also have to be made stakeholders. I know that state sufficiently well. I can say this with some understanding that it's not just development alone that's going to bring peace in Jammu and Kashmir. It requires involvement of local leadership. The stakeholdership should also involve the locals. Maybe in that direction, the government will move in this year or maybe later. That's very essential.
BJP, post abrogation especially, before that also, BJP has always seen Kashmiri Hindus and Pandits, of course, as their constituency. But now, since so many killings have happened over the past few days, there are incidents of Kashmiri Pandits protesting against the local government, as you rightly mentioned, against the LG. So, do you really see that there is some sort of, laxity in confidence building measures probably, or they are yet to build that confidence among the locals, and because they don't have any local representative, neither into the local government nor into the political party. It's all outsiders.
Protests are, they are genuine protests. They are definitely an aggrieved community. 15, 16 of them were killed in the last several months. So there is a sense of insecurity, there is a sense of fear among the Pandit community. Remember, most of these people who are now being targeted by these terrorists are all those people who were brought into the Union Territory in the last few years after the Prime Minister's package was announced when our government was there. That under that package, new jobs were created. About 3,000 jobs were created for the Pandits. So those youngsters,
new houses were built.
New houses and jobs were created essentially. Yeah. So they all have come in the last few years. Now we have provided them jobs, but what about security? So they are saying that provide us security also, and it is a genuine demand. One should not have any problem with that. And if they are protesting for a right reason, and government understands it. That's why the Lieutenant Governor has met with these protesting people and assured them that government will do everything to provide security to them. I'm sure the government will be thinking on those lines. Even I think the local party, Jammu and Kashmir party, also has met the Lieutenant Governor and appealed to him that more security should be provided to these people. It's not enough that we just provided them jobs. It's also important that we give them necessary security, not to everybody. Those who are working in remote areas, those who are vulnerable, those who can become targets, easy targets for these covered terrorists, they need to be provided some security. I'm sure government will think about that.
Thank you very much, sir, for speaking to us.